All right, how am you, Babs? Welcome to the Albion Obsessed Podcast. Today, we're going to talk to you about how the Albion went to the Black Country and they beat the Wolves. So today, we're going to talk to Joseph. Joseph, how am you, mate?
All good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Oh, I'm cracking, mate. You know, I've just been practicing my Black Country. I've been talking to my wife because she's from the Black Country, ain't she? So I've just talked to her a bit. And, you know, I've just been practicing. So, anyway, let's enough of that. I don't want to offend my West Midlands brethren. No, I'm doing well. Thank you, mate. And just we'll sort out some subtitles. We also welcome Aaron. Aaron, my friend, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, Tom. Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm having to work this weekend, as I said in the group chat. Contrary to popular belief, teachers don't actually just work Monday to Friday, 9 till 3. So it's lies. And we also welcome back Kurtis, friend. Kurtis, how are you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, and also before we carry on, I made a promise in the pod before the Chelsea game that if we win, I will do the pod in a wig. That's the wig.
Beautimous. I love it. I'm here for it.
By the way, don't ask why I have so many wigs, but I have wigs. So
that is absolutely spectacular. Kurtis, I hope you're going to wear that for the entire podcast.
I plan on it, yeah.
Fantastic. And then there's Kurtis's cat. Hello, Kurtis's cat. How are you, cat?
Meow.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. What a strange introduction it has been. We've had Black Country, we've had wigs. So let's jump in, shall we, to our regular scheduled content. So we're here to talk about the amazing victory at Wolves. It was a very topsy-turvy game. We saw penalties, we saw red cards, we saw comebacks. It was a fantastic game. So let's start at the beginning, as we always like to. Let's talk about the starting 11, Joe. It was no surprise, I suppose, to see that De Zerbi went with the same 11 that so well dismantled Chelsea the weekend prior. Leandro Trossard starting in that false 9 again, but it was nice to see that Veltman and Welbeck were returning from injury and illness, respectively, by being on the bench. What were your thoughts on that starting 11 and the bench?
Yeah, no surprises at all. You know, when you dismantle Chelsea 4-1 at home, nobody can lose their place. Mitoma has to be the first name on the team sheet going forwards. The guy, which we'll talk about in the podcast, was absolutely electric against Chelsea and arguably our best player yesterday. So no surprises there. Really good to see Adam Lallana getting a second start in a row as well. So yeah, not overly surprised, and good to see Veltman and Welbeck back as well. But it's going to be a struggle for them to get back into the side because we are cooking at the moment.
We certainly are. We are cooking with gas, as the saying goes. Aaron, what were your thoughts on the starting 11 when you saw it? You know, were you hopeful that we could take the game to Wolves?
Yeah, very much so. I think, like Joe said, really, you can't change a winning formula. It's just you just don't do that unless you have to by injury or suspension. We didn't need to, so I was more than happy to see the team sheet as it was for the Chelsea game.
Decent. And finally, Kurtis, what are your thoughts on Leandro Trossard as that false 9? He played very well in the Chelsea game. Obviously, in previous games, he's perhaps gone a little bit missing in that role. Were you hopeful that he could repeat his Chelsea heroics?
I mean, yeah, because he's been in some good form as of late, I think. I thought he did go a little bit missing yesterday, if I'm brutally honest. But yeah, I thought, you know, the rest of the team played really well. I wasn't surprised with the starting 11. You couldn't theoretically drop any of those guys, so I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, the only one I was a bit concerned about is Pascal Gross at right back, and that was only because obviously Wolves have a lot of pace that they can utilise in Adama Traore. Thankfully, Adama Traore didn't start the game yesterday. I know Traore's got some pretty questionable finishing, an end product. However, Pascal is not the fastest man, and I did think that Chelsea had targeted him a little bit. I'm not going to knock Pascal too much because I think he's done a really good job as a stand-in right back, but it'll be interesting to see now that Veltman has returned to fitness, how De Zerbi will sort of line up going forward. But we'll chat about that a little bit later, because we're here to talk about the amazing start that Brighton made, Joe. You mentioned there about Mitoma being the first name on the team sheet. I think from minute one, Mitoma was causing them all sorts of problems. What attributes does Mitoma have, Joe, that make him such a difficult player to play against?
He's just absolutely rapid and just so silky on the ball, and he's one of those players that defenders just do not want to come up against, because you just know his agility is going to beat you every single time. And we saw yesterday how much of a struggle he is to play against, and against Chelsea he was doing exactly the same thing against arguably what they are on paper, what a world-class team. Obviously we've seen them struggling, which is absolutely hilarious. But he's just got that no fear about him, and he'll just run at anyone. He doesn't care who it is. He wants to get that ball into the box and have a shot or cross the ball. And we have been missing a player like him for years. And I'm so happy. Obviously, it's very early days. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but what we've seen from him has been electric, and long may that continue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're going to talk about it throughout this podcast, how he was constantly causing Wolves all sorts of issues. They just couldn't live with him, and it got a player sent off, as we'll discuss in a bit, and also got another player, Johnny carded, in the second half. But another, I think, was really important to do in the first 15 or 20 minutes or so, Aaron, was to really keep the midfield of Wolves quiet, because they've got some fantastic players in the centre of the park. And Caicedo and McAllister, I thought they did a really good job of not allowing Wolves to have too much time and space in the middle. What did you make of Caicedo and McAllister's performance, Aaron, especially in the early stages?
Solid. They've been very solid most of the season, to be honest, and keeping Martinho and Neves quiet is hard things to do at the best time, because they are two fantastic midfielders. I don't think Wolves actually helped themselves in the first sort of 15-20 minutes, or especially first sort of 10 minutes actually, where they just, for some reason, were trying to press us, and that just played into our hands because we just had so much time and space. And then obviously they changed. They sort of sat back, and obviously when they equalised, they sort of started sitting back a little bit. And then that's when you started to see Neves and Martinho on the ball a bit more. But to be honest, I don't really see much of Martinho during the game. Really, he sort of was very non-existent. Neves is Neves. He does what he does. He's a fantastic player. He should be playing better club than Wolves. I said this when they were in the Championship, when he came over from Porto. I don't know why, or how they spent £40 million to bring him in the Championship. It baffled me then. But he's a fantastic player, and we kept him quiet.
We certainly did, and I think that was job number one for our midfield. Another job that we will talk about in this episode particularly is the job of the midfield to score. Kurtis, I mean, it's no secret that no striker has scored this season yet for us, unless you start calling Trossard a striker. We call him a forward, I suppose. But Lallana came out after the game. I know I'm jumping ahead a bit here, and he said it's very much up to the team as a whole to start chipping in with goals. I mean, Lallana yesterday was absolutely superb, wasn't he, Kurtis?
Yeah, I mean, he rolled back the years, definitely. I mean, it's mad to see De Zerbi get the best out of these players like Lallana, who is always a pretty safe and stable guy to have in the team. He's sort of like that workhorse, But to see him play as well as he did yesterday, and to score when it came up in the group chat, because I wasn't watching the game at the time, I was like, right, okay. And then I saw it. I was like, oh, damn, right, okay. Cool. But yeah, that pleased me to see him get something. He's deserved it. But like you said, in his interview after the game, he was saying that he was played as sort of a striker along with Trossard yesterday. which I found really interesting. So yeah, I think it's really important for everyone to contribute to the goal scoring situation. But obviously, it would be nice to have that one player, a striker, for that to be his job. But I'm just happy that everyone's getting involved.
Just before we talk about Lallana's goal, Joe, I don't think it's much of a secret that this season and last season, Lallana was coming in for a lot of grief on social media about his inclusion in the team. Some people calling him all sorts of names under the sun, calling him to be taken off, to have nothing to do with the first team whatsoever. You asked me this yesterday, Joe, and now I'm going to flip it over to you. Do you think Lallana's, what I would believe, definitely up there, man of the match performance yesterday, do you think that will alleviate some of the pressure, some of the criticism that he's received from some sections of the fan base?
It should do. Hopefully the fan base that base our players off of the sole fact that they've got 50 pace on FIFA or only a silver card is beyond me. That's how I think their mentality is. They just look at these stats that, who really watches Brighton and makes our statistics, because Lallana has proved multiple times that he's so important to this squad, whether that's on or off the field. He stepped in when Graham Potter left to help Andrew Crofts. He's an unbelievable voice to have on the pitch. And again, this is the guy that's won a Premier League and a Champions League. I know maybe he didn't play as big a part, but he is part of that squad. That experience is absolutely vital to us if we want any chance of success if we want to get European places, because that for me, again, maybe I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but that's back on this season. Why not? We've been absolutely phenomenal. Yes, there's been games with De Zerbi bedding in his ideas that we've not been quite at the races, but over the last two performances, I see no reason why not we can't challenge at the top end of the table again. And Lallana can be a massive part of that if he stays fit. Again, if he doesn't stay fit off the field, he's so important to have in the dressing room. So yeah, for me, absolutely vital.
100%, no arguments here. I think, as I say, that he's received a lot of grief, and hopefully yesterday's performance, if he can maintain that sort of level, even if he's not scoring or getting assists, just that leadership on the pitch, if he can keep that up, that'd be brilliant. So, Aaron, let's talk about the goal, because it did seem at times that Brighton were afraid to pull the trigger. However, some lovely one-touch passing around the Wolves defence, and Lallana absolutely smashes in the goal. First goal in 44 appearances for him. What did you make of it?
Oh, it's good football. Good football. It's a fantastic finish. Like, you couldn't really place it any better, really, with your hand. It really perfectly placed. It's what we deserved. The first 10 minutes, we deserved that. And, we should have been 1-0 up beforehand if, Solly March actually would like to shoot instead of taking an extra touch. But yeah, we deserved it. There's no doubt in my mind we deserved that goal.
Yeah, and just really quickly on that Solly March chance, that was also created by Adam Lallana. So, even before he scored himself, he was creating chances. And I do feel sorry for Solly, because he just, you talk about goals and appearances. I don't think Solly's scored in about 50 odd. But that shouldn't take away, again, similar to the Lallana criticism, it shouldn't take away the importance that Solly is to our team, because I'd argue he's probably been one of the standout performers this season, even if he's not scoring. Kurtis, I love a good stat. You know me, love a good stat. Wolves had only scored 3 goals at home prior to Brighton's visit. We were in the lead for roughly 2 minutes before Wolves equalised. Pervis Estupiñán pulled out of position, trying to intercept the ball. It got worked out to our left, their right. Mitoma did his best to track back and stop the player. I'm going to probably completely butcher the pronunciation of it. Is it Guedes? He bombed into the box. Mitoma tried to tackle him, but didn't want to give away the penalty. And he slots in at the near post. Kurtis, how frustrating was it to only hold the lead for 2 minutes?
Very, because I was sort of still in the throes of celebrating the goal, and then yeah, that happened. So that was very, very annoying. But I feel like it highlights a lot of our defensive issues again, which we've said a few times on the last few pods, that it's got a bit weak, and I don't know what needs to be done about it. So
it's a tough one, isn't it, Joe? Because I mean, for all of Purvis's fantastic attributes going forward, you know, he is partly at fault for that goal. Yes, there was still things that the Wolves player needed to do, but it was Purvis being dragged out of position trying to make that interception that really starts the move. What do you think Purvis needs to improve upon defensively to just sort of bring him into that sort of all-round fantastic left back?
Yeah, I mean, what are we with Purvis? 8 or 9 games into his Premier League career. He's going to learn. You know, the previous left back we had to him took some time to get to grips with the Premier League. And it's the same with Purvis. He's come from the same league, same level. And he's going to learn from everybody around him that he can't go and leave his position, because in the Premier League, you're going to get punished if you leave space in behind. And it will just come with time, Tom. I don't think we should be overly concerned. He's learning off of one of the best defenders in the Premier League, Lewis Dunk. Should be in the England squad, Gareth Southgate. But yeah, it's just about time, Tom, and I'm sure De Zerbi will drill into him, and also with the defensive issues. That's probably the last thing that we need to stamp out in the De Zerbi way, because they're going to be learning a new style of playing out from the back and where they have to be. So yeah, it's just about giving us time, and hopefully that it will shore up over the next few games or so. I know obviously we've got the World Cup coming up, and that's more time to work on things. I know obviously some players will go, but
yeah, I think it's also worth remembering, you know, we got such an attacking fullback in Purvis Estupiñán who helped and created so many chances yesterday. When you play a back four, inevitably there is going to be space, because I think, and Wolves utilised that space in the second half quite well, because both Purvis and Mitoma are so high up the pitch. And when you've got playing a back three, you've got that more defensive cover. But when you play a back four and your fullback is that high up the pitch, it will, as you say, Joe, it will leave you a bit, well, very, you know, prone to counterattacks. Now, Aaron, I mean, Purvis was certainly at fault for being dragged out of position, but a few fans on Twitter questioning if Sanchez could have done better as the ball went in at the near post. As our resident goalkeeper, what do you make of that?
I get it to a certain degree. For me, it's Purvis is at fault for the goal, 100%, hands down. There's no... Why is he going to try to get that ball there? I have no idea. There's no need. We've just taken the lead. Just be compact for 5 minutes. Just be sensible. Don't get dragged out. There's no need. I think Sanchez is trying to anticipate which way he's going to go across goal, and as Guedes is getting closer and closer and is gradually losing his balance, I think he's just scuffed his finish, to be honest. I actually don't think he's tried to put it where it actually went, personally. Hence why Sanchez couldn't really do a great deal with it, really. To say he should be doing better is a bit harsh, personally. He's tried to anticipate and going across goal. He hasn't. Hence why he's a little bit flat-footed. But for me, can't really blame Sanchez. It's Purvis for me. Very poor defend, very naive defending.
Yeah, as you say, when you're taking the lead, you are perhaps the most vulnerable to conceding. So, you know, to be pulled out of position is a bit of a rookie mistake. But as you say, Joe, Purvis will learn from that. And, you know, I think we don't want to get too down on him because, as I say, his attributes going forward are fantastic. And he will learn the ropes of defending in the Premier League. I think it's fair to say, Kurtis, after we scored, the wind went out of our sails a little bit. Wolves started getting on top, but we did have a chance. Trossard put a shot wide. I think Trossard took a knock in that first half. I think he took like an arm to the face, and he just didn't seem right after that. Do you perhaps think this was a another example of Trossard not performing because we weren't playing against a team in the top 6?
It's mad, isn't it? But yeah, you are right. We definitely fell off after we scored and they equalised. It sort of felt like the wind definitely left our sails. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that with Trossard, he really does like to turn up to the big games. But I don't know. It's strange. Like we always say about how Trossard can have these string of games where he's bloody fantastic, and then he'll go missing for the next 2 or 3. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think he'll start picking up that form again, nice and soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Welbeck back, it'll be interesting to see what De Zerbi chooses to do. For me, for what it's worth, my opinion is that Trossard has to start, even if that's a false 9. But I also think Mitoma and March probably have to start. So I'd probably be tempted to keep playing Trossard as a striker. But we'll discuss that at the end of the episode when we look ahead to the Cup and the Villa game. Joe, let's talk about another. Some fans thought it was a contentious decision. Let's talk about the Dunk handball. So once again, the ball comes out to our left-hand side, and the ball is played into the box. Dunk, he's running back. He tries to turn his body, so the ball, ironically, doesn't hit his arm. And of course, as he's done that, he's turned like that, and the ball has clipped what looks like to be his elbow. The cross did eventually find a Wolves player, its intended target. The shot was blocked and play went on for a moment or two. Referee didn't blow up. There was a very lengthy VAR check, Joe, just before the penalty eventually was given. So, Joe, I'd like to get your thoughts, please. In your mind, was it a penalty? And regardless of whether you thought it was a penalty or not, what are your thoughts on VAR taking that long?
I think it probably was a penalty. I know Dunkey came out and said he's going to have to learn the handball rule again and learn from what he done wrong because he wasn't overly sure. But for me, the reason I say it is a penalty is because I don't think you can put your arm up like that, because it gives the referee, it gives VAR that reason to make that decision. Whether it's skimmed off your arm or fully touched your arm, it still touched your arm. So yeah, what angle you look at it, I'm not sure. But that is by and by. But in terms of VAR taking that long, we've said it all along. Why does it have to take 3 or 4 minutes to come to that decision? You have to slow it down to the slowest frame rate possible to see whether the ball slightly changes direction. And then you can say, there's our solid proof that Lewis Dunk has definitely handballed that. Going at full pace, nobody, not even the best referee in the world, sees whether that touched Dunk's arm or not. Again, pulling up the contentious decision of, is it clear and obvious? Well, no, it's not if it's going to take you 4 minutes to decide. So there is, I say it's a penalty, right? And for me, it is. But there is a lot of frustration when it comes down to stopping the game for that long. The fans in the stadium have no idea what's going on. The fans at home watching on TV really have no idea what's going on, because half of the time you don't see really what they're looking at, because they're pulling it back, putting it forward, pulling it back, putting it forward. It's just unbelievably confusing. And again, brings me back to the point, we need to hear what they're saying. We need the clarity. It has to be there. Otherwise, it's just going to grow in frustration. And somebody one day is going to do something that they regret because of how frustrated they are. And I'm not condoning that by any means, but I just know what that frustration does to you. And yeah, something needs to change. They need to look at it, but they never will.
No, it was. I think that was, for me, that was the most frustrating thing, because I totally get your point, Joe, about Dunk's arm being up in the air. Aaron, that's an unnatural position. So surely referee has got no choice. But Aaron, same question to Joe. Surely it's a case of objective. It hit his arm. It's a penalty.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as he's hit his arm, it's a penalty. Then they obviously then had to check for offside. which also probably had like another like 2 minutes onto it, which didn't help, which is fair enough because if it's offside, then obviously the handball doesn't matter. For me, it was clear and obvious. Personally, you can't have your arms up in the air like that. If it hits you, it's a penalty, 100%. And I don't know why it took so long. I didn't really understand it. To be honest, as soon as I saw the replay, and there was like, yeah, it's a penalty. Done. It was like, cool. It was like 100%. I literally had no complaints whatsoever. Even about the length of VAR, because obviously when you look at it, then you have to check the offside. If the offside's tight, then you've got to look at that. So it's all contributing factors to the actual length of the decision. And in the end, it did got to the right decision.
That's fair and very balanced as well. I mean, some maybe neutrals or Wolves fan would expect us to perhaps turn around and say, oh, it wasn't a penalty. But according to the rules, it is a penalty. So let's talk about those rules, Kurtis. Let's talk about the rules, because the rules are, and, please, guys, jump in if I'm off on this. It used to be that if it was ball to hand, as in the ball was kicked and it hit your hand or hit your arm, it wouldn't be given because it wasn't deemed deliberate. But if it was a deliberate attempt to stop the ball with your hand, obviously penalty, cards, what have you. So some of the Brighton fans on socials are pointing out that if the touch off Lewis Dunk's arm doesn't affect where the cross is going, as in the ball reached its intended target, so the recipient was able to have a shot on goal. If that is the case, is this particular rule of if the ball hits your arm, regardless of intent or whatever, is it fit for purpose?
It doesn't matter. It's handball.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm trying to make, Aaron.
It doesn't matter if it's got to its intended target. It still hit his arm.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, Aaron. But obviously, dunk in past years that might have been deemed ball to hand, whereas now that's
we're talking like 15, 20 years ago. Modern day football's changed so much where if it's outside the natural position, then it's a penalty.
I would argue that that's not an unnatural position because Dunk's momentum
is his hands above his head.
Yeah, but that's because of his momentum of changing direction. If you run and jump, you're going to use your arm to give you that momentum to turn. So I would argue it's not an unnatural position for the movement that Dunk is trying to do. It's not, Aaron, because if you run and jump, you use your arm to give you the momentum to turn. So it's unnatural if he was facing side on and had his arm up there, but he's gone to turn, use his arm as momentum. That is a natural position for the arm to be in to give you the momentum to turn on a quick basis. So I would argue that in past years, I know it doesn't matter because it was a penalty, hit his arm. Current rules, penalty, no argument. But I suppose my point is that, some Brighton fans would argue, I'm not saying it, I'm just giving the voice to the people on Twitter, that because the ball skimmed his arm, went into the box, is the rule fit for purpose if it didn't change the flight of the ball?
But it still hit his arm.
Yeah, I know, Aaron. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying the rule.
But the rule itself is changing due to it's just how modern football is changing in time. Like for me, like I said, I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever. Like none at all. And if we got that penalty, I'd be like, yeah, that's fair enough. If we were on the receiving end of that but didn't get it, I'll be fuming. Because it's clear and obvious, and for me that's an unnatural position. If my centre back has jumped like that and it's hit his arm, and I'm not going to go be like losing my shit at the ref, like, it's a disgusting decision, blah blah. Because there's no need. I get what you mean about momentum, but there's no need to. If you're jumping, just fucking turn your back. That's what they've just turned their back instead of putting their arms up doing that, or a bit higher. But it's just for me. There's no complaints at all. I'm surprised on Twitter there were so many complaints because it's a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, and
black and white. It's hit his arm. Rules state arms in a natural position. If it hits it, it's a penalty. It's hit his elbow. Therefore,
Yeah.
it is a penalty.
To be fair, Dunk didn't after the game. Dunk didn't complain. He didn't, he didn't say anything. He said, he just would have to go away and sort of like learn from it. So I suppose, if even when the players are saying things like that, it obviously brings into sort of this discussion about rules and what are the rules. And if the players don't even know what the rules are or a bit unsure of them, then perhaps the rules aren't clear enough. I suppose that's the argument that some people are going to say. But let's move on, because I don't think any of us here will debate that it wasn't a penalty.
By the way, you initially did ask me the question, but yes, it was a handball. So
yeah, I think no argument.
Because I mean, yesterday I was questioning it. I was like, "Well, it came off his elbow," but then obviously Aaron was like, "Yeah, that's his arm. That's part of his arm. That's a handball." And I was like, "Yeah, well, yeah, okay, then of course it is. That makes sense." So, but yeah, it was a handball. So.
When is a hand not a hand? That is the question.
When it's an elbow.
And it's an elbow, yes. Let us know your thoughts down below. Albion Obsessed viewers, listeners, let us know what you thought about that. I mean,
do they need to change it? Do they need to change it to arm ball then? Always arm balled it.
I think that's just quibbling with semantics, to be honest. Again, I was going to reiterate, no one here, I don't think, thinks it wasn't a deserved penalty. It was. VAR check, bit long, but we move. Sanchez doing a lot of jumping around on the line. Joe, you've said your piece before about Sanchez saving penalties. Do you think that's Aaron, I'll come to you on this in a minute. I know we're prolonging the point a little bit here, but when you're on the line, you're jumping from one way to the other. I think as an attacker, Joe, I'd be waiting for Sanchez to move one way and I'd just put it the next, because his again, talking about momentum, his momentum's already going that way. He's not going to be able to get across in time, is he?
Yeah. I just, whenever we get a penalty given against us, it's like, yep, that's going to be a goal if it's on target. I'm not sure if it's just poor luck from Sanchez, whether the work has been done and he's just been outwitted every single time. I shall pass this over to our resident goalkeeper, because I don't know whether Sanchez should have a higher save rate from the penalties that he's had against him.
Penalty is always just a bit of luck, really, as a keeper. You pick your way and you just go that way. And for him moving around along the line and stuff, I don't see a problem with it. I do that. You're just trying to get in the striker or the penalty taker's head. There's been times where I've stood on the 6-yard line just chatting to the striker. Just like, I know where you're going. You're going to miss. I know exactly where you're going. You're not good enough to score past me. And he's not, and I save it, and I laugh in his face. So, and with Sanchez, I think the work must have been done. Like, it has to be done, because modern day football nowadays is there's so much analyst there, so much of that sort of stuff is analysed, so thorough, and he should do better with some, but it's just pot luck. It's just generally just pot luck. And I don't think there's been a single penalty where I think, oh, he should have saved that. Really, I can think of, like, he's not really got his hand to any of them or anything like that. Like the one yesterday was just sort of straight down the middle, a bit high up in the middle, really. Even if he goes the right way, the likelihood of him probably getting it's pretty unlikely, because he will probably go low and he's gone high. So it's what it is.
Yeah, penalties. I never be too berating of a goalkeeper unless they got a hand to it, and then you could perhaps argue, or maybe the hand should have been stronger. Blah blah blah. But no, it was what it was. It was unfortunate that we allowed a lead to slip. However, we did manage to claw our way back into the game before halftime, thanks to a headed goal from Mitoma, assisted by Adam Lallana. The chance seemed to have gone Kurtis, but Lallana showed excellent skill, and he got a hell of an assist there. Quick feet, twisting, turning through Wolves players at will, dinked a lovely little cross over to Mitoma, who somehow got above Semedo and headed straight past Sarr. How fantastic was it to see Mitoma score his first Premier League goal?
I mean, incredibly deserved for both. I mean, as you said, that assist, that beautiful cross from Lallana, setting up that goal was fantastic. Beautiful stuff. But yeah, I was just as surprised to see Mitoma get that high up and score a great header. And again, truly deserved. He's been playing so incredibly well. He clearly just has a lot of passion for it. and yeah, just so happy to see him contribute. I know he's going to keep doing so. Yeah, and just before I came on, actually, Brighton put an interview with him up on the YouTube, Sound like a 60-year-old. Yeah, that was really good. Him talking about his goal and stuff, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can do in the future for us.
As we've said already, absolute handful for Wolves yesterday. Absolute handful. They just could not contain him. And that lack of containment, Joe, wasn't over yet. Lewis Dunk played a lovely long ball into space behind their fullback. Mitoma bombing on forward, gets rugby tackled to the ground by the last man, who gets sent off. That's what we're going to talk about. So Mitoma goes down, and he makes the card signal. Joe, what are your thoughts on Mitoma making that signal?
Well, it's just one of those things, and if it happens against you, you're fuming at the player. If your player does it, it's funny. It's one of those things, and I feel like we've been way too nice as a team to opposition sometimes. So it's nice to see somebody have that fire in them to be a bit of a arse, really. I know a lot of fans will say, "Oh no, I don't like seeing that," and yeah, really he shouldn't, but it's funny. And he got a red card. He was always going to get a red card, whether Mitoma done that or not. So to that, Tom, I say,
I'm here for that. Yeah, it was just again showing just how much they just could not deal with him. Some Wolves fans that I know very split on whether it was a red card or not, but I think last man. I just don't think what you can say. So that it was rugby tackles as well. I mean, it was an
how can they complain with that? It's a stone, mate.
Oh, Aaron. So basically,
clueless.
what I've seen and heard is that yes, it was the last man, but they question whether he was through on goal. That is the.
Are they smoking crack?
It is
genuine question. He's through on goal. The ball, his first touch. Fuck it, weird lot.
Yeah, I was just as bemused as you to see this sort of response. Yeah, he's through on goal. His touch takes him past the defender. He can, and with Matoma's quick feet, it'll be very easy for him to just bear down on goal from the angle, admittedly. But even so, I don't think anyone who's sensible can have any complaints about that. And that is all I will bring to the table on that discussion, because a lot of division.
I just want to say that people complaining about him doing this thing, it just need to get in the bin. I'm so sorry. Like, there's literally absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you're like, well, he's a professional football player, he shouldn't be waving up the card. He's not the referee. It's the referee's job to make that decision. If the referee's good enough, he shouldn't be looking at that player and going, well, he's waving a card, it must be a card. Like, it's his job to do that. So, like, it's not like Mitoma influenced the thing. There was a clear and obvious foul on a player, and again, yeah, he was the last man. It was deserved. It was a red card. Is what it is. And for Wolves player, sorry,
no, you go, Kurtis. Go on.
I was about to say, for Wolves fans saying it's like soft or whatever, like, I agree with Aaron, because whatever they're smoking, I'd like some of that. So.
Players influencing referee cards gives me Gaston Ramirez flashbacks. That was not fun.
No, it wasn't fun. But, as you hit the nail on the head, Joe, we've been too nice for years. And I think apart from maybe Veltman, we don't really have any players that are good at the dark arts, shall we say. And we've come up against teams that are so good at doing stuff like that. And it frustrates us to no end when you're on this end of it. And it is frustrating, but we've also seen players and how they can influence the referees and things like that. And I think it's about time that we showed a bit more of that. I'm not condoning, surrounding the referees, because I hate that. I would never condone such a thing. But doing that isn't, it's just a bit, it's just one of those. I just don't see
it's just funny.
It's literally just funny. Nothing thing. People just need to just stop. Just stop being so up in arms about nothing things. It's just nothing.
I'm offended by the up in arms. No, of course I'm not.
Old man yells at clouds.
Yeah, old man yells at cloud. Yeah, just strong vibes there. We went into the half, equal, 2-2, fantastic. I think we needed that, especially as Wolves were probably going to just sit back the entire second half, especially as they were down to 10 men. And Joe, they did a fantastic job of frustrating us in that second half. I mean, there were opportunities. Solly March, I thought March did, a fantastic thing he did. He tackled Kilman, he got the ball, drove in on goal, forced to save out Assar, which was brilliant. But Wolves made it really tricky for us, didn't they?
Yeah, I just want to touch on that Solly March chance. That was just I know people are going to go, he didn't score. But that was prime Solly. That the energy he has, the pure determination to get that ball, that's exactly what he brings to this team. And without that energy, I think we're a completely different side. But yes, Wolves completely frustrated us. And fair play to them. They were always going to do it. 2 banks of 4, 1 man up top is what it is. But they've seen that we struggle to break down low block teams. That they knew that they're not silly. So they're always going to come out and try and hold on to a point as what they had. So yeah, but I'm just happy that we kept plugging away.
We certainly did, and we certainly had lots of chances, a few free headers. Duncan, Webster, I believe, McAllister had a free kick, well saved, but nothing seemed to be working. Aaron, you've seen some things. You've experienced some stuff. You messaged me, I think, with about 10 minutes to go saying, Tom, I know what's going to happen here. Did you just think that Wolves were going to walk away with the
100%. 100%. It was like I said to you, you said to me, we've seen some things and we've seen a lot of things, and it just would not have surprised me if they won it. Generally wouldn't. And that's not even me being negative. It's just typical Brighton sort of things. Obviously, I'm glad we didn't. And to be fair, we deserved to be 2-1 down before Mitoma equalised, because we were awful after they scored. Without that, even the second half, we were okay. We weren't particularly great. It has to be said. To be fair, it probably wasn't even really our best performance. In hindsight, there was the flashes of a good performance, and luckily, a moment of class again from Pascal, just sliding in to finish or get the 3 points, which I think in the end we deserved, because I don't think really Wolves offered that much after going down to 10 men. They had the Traore chance, but other than that, they didn't really do a great deal. And that's from us switching off at the back as well, was why they got that chance. Well, people on Twitter were saying, no, why is it so hard to play against 10 men? It's because they're just so much more compact. That is the reason why. And it was very similar to the Forest game, where long it was going on, it was I can't see us breaking them down. And luckily we did, because otherwise it would have probably felt really 2 points dropped yesterday if we didn't win. But we did, so I don't really particularly care. So we take the 3 points, we move back down south from the Black Country, and we go again.
We deserve. Let's talk about that goal, Kurtis, because once again,
what's that?
I said, it is we had to do
Aaron, it's their language.
Right, should we just? I was going to talk about the goal, but should we have a Black Country?
Very, very, very strange people up there, aren't they? Very
we have a Black Country dialect.
Uncouth, a lot of them.
So
speak the Queen's English, Thomas.
So spake. Spake
the King's
spake
English.
The Queen's
Aaron.
English. So spake is speak. How am you? Oh, that's how are you?
How are you? Yeah, I think I am. Yeah.
You've got os, which is a horse. So it's a stripy os. That's a zebra. These are the things I've learned since I've moved up to the Black Country. Listeners and viewers are like, we've come here to talk about football, and here's Tom talking to us about Black Country dialect.
Viewers, next week there will be a pop quiz. So
yes, there will.
Right.
What is the
which Tom's lovely wife will host?
A zebra. I'll get her on. Although she's not very Black Country unless you get her angry. So I'll just poke her beforehand and get her really cross. Anyway, we've digressed and we've fallen into Black Country speak or spake. So Mitoma was going round the back of Collins. He cuts it back to Undav, who plays it across to Pascal Gross, who hammers it into the top corner. So Kurtis, what did you make of Pascal Gross's goal to give us the winner?
Well, Thomas, it was a very good team goal, I think. Matoma's pass to Undav, and he passes it round to Gross, and the lovely assist for Gross once again to do what Gross does this season. He's been bloody outstanding. And I think whilst talking about the goal, I think Undav had a really good little cameo yesterday. I thought he looked good when I saw him, and he could have been selfish and took that shot himself, but to assist Gross like that, pretty good. And I'm happy for Gross, because he's another one that gets a lot of slack for being too slow. And there was people in this very chat right now who had a lot of abuse for him at one point, but we can safely say that he is just become.
I stand by what I said,
and you've apologized as well, so that's okay. But anyway, no, but like he has to start games. Obviously, like if he doesn't start, then that's an issue for me. I'm like, why isn't Gross starting? So, but yeah, to talk about the goal, yes, fantastic. Really, really happy for everyone involved.
And Joe, Matoma's been looking for that cutback move since he came on as a sub against, was it Newcastle? That run into really, really like the byline, cutting it back. And it finally worked, Joe. It finally worked, and we got a goal that was eventually the winner.
That run was delicious, honestly. Like if Messi does that, people are talking about that for weeks. Like how many players tried to tackle him? He just evaded absolutely everyone. And yeah, he cuts it back into that danger zone, and gutted for Undav that chance didn't fall for him. A little bit cleaner, because it would have been nice for him to get his first goal for the Albion. But it falls to Pascal Gross, and the boy doesn't miss from there. So really happy that it was obviously Pascal that gets that. And we were talking yesterday. I think we spoke about it on the parlay, Tom, or even on the group chat. Pascal Gross, easily Albion legend status now for me. He's been so important to this Premier League side ever since we got promoted. That to think that we signed this guy for £3.5 million is just beyond me. To give that context, that's £1 million more than Craig McCall-Smith. I'm not taking anything away from Craig. I absolutely adore him, but for the levels that we came up from the League One to the Championship and spent that much money. To think that we only spent £1 million more to get a player that's been so important for us in the Premier League is crazy. And long may that continue. And I'm so glad that at the end of last season he signed that new deal. And I think he could go on to be a real true legend here.
Yeah, and we are again. I'm going to say, I think about the third time, we will discuss the team moving forward now that Veltman seems to be back. But Aaron, before we get on to like our post-match sort of chat, I just wanted to talk to you about Roberto De Zerbi and his celebration on the touchline after having two managers in Houghton and Potter who have been very who don't show a lot of emotion on the touchline. How refreshing is it to see that passion of Roberto running along the touchline 20 yards, pumping his fists?
Oh, massively so. And I think that's his Italian flair, I think, really. And just how emotional they all are. The Italians, they are a very emotional nation. And you can just tell how much it means to him. And I love it personally. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, we've had Potter who could barely show any sort of emotion, really. He was very, how do I put this in a polite way, which doesn't sound rude?
Subdued.
I was going to say reserved, but yeah, reserved. I'm going to say he's boring as fuck is what I was going to say, but I tried for it, but it's fine. Yeah, very reserved, very, very subdued. And then we got Houghton was pretty similar, to be fair, but Houghton's a legend for obvious reasons. And then now you've got the complete flip side where you've got a manager with actually passion. His whole coaching staff seems to have it as well, which I love.
Yeah, one of the coaches ran down the touchline at Chelsea to celebrate. I think it was the 4th goal, which is it's just brilliant. I'm totally here for it. And I know Cam was saying about how after being stung like we have in the last few months, you want to sort of like create that little bit of a distance. You don't want to sort of, it's almost like falling for your new manager. But my God, I just love him. He just got so much passion, and ever since day one in Liverpool, he's just been wonderful. I think.
I just want to, sorry Tom, just to cut in quick. I just want to say how special it is for him as well to be at a club where he can feel the same he felt at Shakhtar Donetsk. He's been very vocal about what the unfortunate situation in Ukraine has done to him personally, and taking a team away that he was enjoying so much. And it's really nice and emotional to know that we can give him the same thing. And I feel like instantly that's given us such an emotional connection to him as a man, not just a head coach. So I think we're well within our rights to just be falling in love with him game by game, even in the tough moments. We've stuck by him, and I hope we continue to do so, because he seems like a fantastic man.
Yeah, he really does, and I'm here for the Roberto De Zerbi era. 7 goals in 2 games, not bad, is it, for a team that historically don't score very often? And Lallana was asked about that post-match, Kurtis. He was asked about, how good is it to score when your team does score? And he came out and he was really honest and open about that. So yeah, it was really refreshing to see that, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because we as fans, obviously, we want more goals, and we want an outright striker and whatnot. But I feel like he was right to point out that it's not just one person that should be making an effort; it should be the whole team and everything. And I think it was good of him to call that out and say his piece on that. And yeah, ultimately just good stuff. Really good stuff.
Decent. Now, Aaron, you've got to shoot off, mate. But before you go, could you just quickly give us your man of the match for yesterday?
Probably would actually have to give it to Lallana, really. I think he just ran the show for me personally. But yes, I unfortunately do have to go. Been a pleasure as always, gents. Thank you very much, listeners and viewers. I'm off for a lovely roast dinner now, gents. So
have a lovely time, mate.
Enjoy, mate.
Looking forward to very much. Roll on Wednesday and then roll on next Sunday. Allez the Bleu. Let's go. Bye.
Thank you very much, Aaron. We'll see you soon, brother. So let's talk about moving forward then. I mean, I've alluded to it quite a few times in this episode, Joe. The starting 11 going forward, I genuinely think that the starting 11 we've seen against Chelsea and Wolves, respectively, is perhaps our strongest starting 11. The only change I would make is I would take Pascal Gross out of the right-back position and put in an actual defender. And I would probably make that defender Joel Veltman. And then the question, as Kurtis has said, if Pascal Gross isn't in that starting 11, that's concerning. So for me, and I know this is mad considering his performance yesterday, I think it would be you'd have to rotate Lallana and Gross as a 10, because I don't think Mitoma's droppable. I don't think Trossard is droppable. I don't think March is droppable. Caicedo and McAllister certainly not. And I'd question whether Lallana or Gross could fill in that defensive role. So for me, Veltman comes in at right back, and then and then Gross and Lallana share the role as a 10. What do you think is our strongest 11, and what 11 do you think you would start against Villa? And I'm going to say Villa because obviously the cup game is coming up against Arsenal. We're probably going to see a lot of rotation there. So in our next Premier League game, Joe, how would you set up?
I think these are, first of all, the exact problems you want as a manager. You don't know. There's situations where a manager doesn't know their best 11, and it's a struggle, and they chop and change all the time. But now we've got so many quality players that actually we don't know our best 11 because we've got so much quality to come off the bench. I unfortunately don't think Welbeck gets back in. with the front line we have at the moment. March, Mitoma, and Trossard have been absolutely phenomenal last couple of games. He's fantastic as a different option, and I absolutely rate Danny Welbeck. I love him. I think his work rate is fantastic. Yes, he's a striker. He hasn't scored yet. People will go, "Oh, you can't just say it's about his work rate." But we've seen what he brings to the team when we're on form. I absolutely get what you're saying about Pascal Gross. It's only for me a matter of time until he gets found out at right back. We know he's not blessed with the pace. We know that he's has struggled at right back before. For me, the only comfort is that Solly March can sort of interchange with him and give that sort of pace when needed. We saw a little bit of a link up in the preseason friendly. I can't remember who it was against, Espanyol, I think, of Pascal at right back and Solly on the right wing, and that worked wonderfully. And I think their partnership is only growing. So it's a really difficult one to take them away from each other. You sort of think, because they work so well, but as you say, he will get found out at right back eventually. And Joel Veltman is unbelievably capable. So yeah, what a selection headache for De Zerbi to have, because yeah, we've got some phenomenal players. And again, I will say we have got some phenomenal players. These aren't players that Graham Potter has made into absolute gems. Yes, he was managing during that time, but our recruitment team have done unbelievable work to bring in some fantastic players, some of the best players we've ever seen play for our football club. It's not about one man. These are fantastic players in their own right, and we've proved exactly that because De Zerbi can get even more out of them. So yeah, happy days.
Definitely, and you can definitely see that De Zerbi is beginning to stamp his style on the team. We've already changed formation. We've gone to a back four, which we were all dreading a little bit like a few months ago. We've gone to a back four. We're playing a 4-2-3-1, and it's working really well. Kurtis, what do you think the Albion's strongest 11 is at the moment?
Well, currently, I think it's the 11 that he's played in the last two games. I think that's the 11 that's working for him, so he's going to use that 11, and they've all been fantastic. Especially the Chelsea game was fantastic, outstanding even. And there was, I know yesterday wasn't perfect, but there were definite moments of brilliance. And like Joe said, it's a bit of a managerial headache for him because, he's got so much young, great talent. You've got like Gilmore and Ciso, Sarmiento, all these other amazing players on the bench who I know will get game time soon. It's just easing them in and everything else like that. So it's a struggle, but, obviously right now, the 11 that we've had the past two games that's the strongest 11.
Let us know your thoughts down below, viewers, because I'd love to see what you think our strongest 11 is at the moment. As I say, my only not concern because he's done well in the last two games is Gross at right back. I'd argue that Chelsea were exploiting him a lot. Wolves were doing that to a lesser extent. I think they were exploiting Purvis and Mitoma a little bit more. But still, it'd be interesting. But I 100% wholeheartedly agree that Gross needs to be somewhere in that 11. For me, it's just a case of where. So let's turn our attention then to our next game, which is in the week. It's the cup game against Arsenal, who are top of the league after beating Graham Potter's Chelsea today. I fully expect to see some changes. Some of those players that you've mentioned there, Kurtis, the likes of Jason Steele, Tariq Lamptey, Veltman, Gilmore, Colwill,
Undav, for the love of God, please, Undav.
Yeah, I imagine these guys are going to get some game time. So it'll be quite interesting, Joe, to see how De Zerbi sets up. Do you think he will make wholesale changes, or will he go for a more consistent approach, keeping the same 11? Yeah,
wholesale changes for me. Gully on the wings, Sally at the back. Yeah, we're cooking. Great. No, seriously though, I expect to see some, in Ciso definitely when he came on against Chelsea in the attacking sense, he was fantastic. a lot of people have pointed out that he was a bit immature, in defence and got an unnecessary booking. But again, he's a young lad; he'll learn. Sarmiento for me has to have game time. I think he's class. So yeah, it's just a really good opportunity against a very, very good team. They played today, so I imagine they will change things up. I believe they played in Europe as well last week, so it's a lot of games for them to deal with. So I really think it'll be an interesting game, to be honest. I'm not overly concerned and worried about it because the Carabao Cup for me is just one of those things. I'd much rather focus on the league and see if we can achieve something really special there. It would just be nice to see some fringe players get some time and really see what they're about. We've not seen much of Gilmore. Be great to see him. We've not seen much of Colwill. We've said our bit on Colwill, but again, I think it's unfair on him to not get some minutes. So will be nice for him personally. So yeah, it'd be a really interesting game, and hopefully we might nick something. Or again, it's going to be unbelievably tough. Arteta's got Arsenal really, really well drilled. Even their youngsters are really fantastic. So I'm not expecting much, but who knows?
Yeah, and as you say, Joe, it's the Carabao Cup, so it's not even the cup competition I care about the most. If it was the FA Cup, it'd be different, but with the Carabao Cup, as long as we put in, give some of the youngsters a chance, perhaps, and then just hope for the best. Kurtis, you mentioned Dennis Undav there. Would you start with Undav? Would you start with Welbeck, or would you start with both of them?
I wouldn't mind seeing a front two. Actually, wouldn't mind that. I feel like Undav would be quite beneficial to Welbeck, actually, thinking about it. Have someone to feed him those balls and things like that, because I've noticed what we try to do with Welbeck sometimes is try and lump in these long balls to him, and he's either not quite quick enough to get to it, or it gets tangled up in his feet or something. So yeah, I think like a striker partner would be really, really good. But I agree with like what Joe was saying. It'd be cool to see like Colwill and people like that who has oodles of talent. Regardless of the loan situation and stuff, he definitely deserves some time. So I hope to see some of these young, hungry players. And I don't see why we shouldn't, feel like we could take something, because, it's Arsenal. But, we've got to believe ultimately. That's all we can do. And I'm feeling confident as I always am. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Kurtis. Viewers, let us know your starting 11 against Arsenal in the Cup. So don't forget, I want best starting 11 and the starting 11 you'd face in the Cup. Would you go strong, or would you give some players like Sarmiento and Ciso, Gilmore, Colwill, etc. more game time? Joe, just before we sign off for the episode, could I have your score prediction for Arsenal in the Cup, please?
Can I give you my man of the match for the Wolves game first?
Oh, God, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Of course, please do both.
Mitoma. Yeah, has to be Mitoma. He was involved in everything. He's, for me, becoming the heartbeat of our attacks. So yeah, Mitoma for me for man of the match against Wolves, as a lot of other people have selected. Score prediction for Arsenal, I think, considering we're playing our youngsters and Arsenal will probably play their European team, I believe we'll probably run out 2-1 losers, unfortunately. But again, we'll see a really nice, positive performance from some of our younger talent.
I like it. Kurtis, could I get your man of the match for the Wolves game and your score prediction for Arsenal, please?
Really, really tough, this question, because I kind of want to give it to two people. Can I give it to Kaoru Lallana, if that's possible? As a unit together, those two were fantastic. I think I'll give it to Mitoma. I think definitely he had a bloody great game and deserves it, as does Lallana, but I'll give it to Mitoma. And as for a scoreline, I feel like Arsenal are going to want to rest some of their bigger players, what with the World Cup actually coming up. So I feel like, if we do see some of their bigger, scarier players, it will be sort of like towards the end of the second half or beginning of the second half or whatever. I don't know. Again, I'm going to stay confident. I'm going to feel like a 2-1 win to the mighty Albion. So,
And Tom, can we get your man of the match for the Wolves game and your score
And-
prediction, please?
yes, exactly.
Of course. So I'm going to say, as man of the match, I'm going to give it to Lallana. I thought he was excellent yesterday. He was the heartbeat of that team in the first half, faded in the second. But, you know, the goal and the assist were just phenomenal. So I'm going to give it to Adam. You know, what a leader we have there. Rate him so highly. And for the score prediction against Arsenal, as you say, Joe, we're probably going to see an Arsenal team full of fringe players that have played in Europe against probably our fringe players, youngsters who aren't as experienced. So I struggle to see anything but an Arsenal win. But, you know, in the interests of positivity, I'm going to go with 2-1 to the Albion, similar to you, Kurtis. Although I do think it'll be a very, very difficult game.
What a negative Nelly I am. Go on.
You are. Let us know your thoughts, viewers, down below. What do you think the score prediction against Arsenal will be? Also, let us know who you think was the man of the match, as well as your best starting 11 and your 11 to face Kurtis.
What, to face me?
I've just got a big full screen of Kurtis.
Yeah, I was about to say,
off.
what happened there?
I don't know. It threw me off my vibe.
I was showing off his wig.
I was about to say though, chaps, before we have to talk about the fact that we have a parlay, right? We have to talk about that, right?
Yes, we do have a parlay. Albion Obsessed, that's me. Exiled Seagull, that's Tom. Sea Friend, that's Kurtis. Everybody else on there, I don't know their usernames and they're not here to confirm it. But download the Parlay app, PRLY Sports. It's a really good initiative, getting really healthy online conversation going. 6-minute videos that we do, they're really, really fun. If you want to come on, if you want to chat to us, let us know. We'll hop on a parlay with you. We'll get some fan interactions. But it's such a good app. Honestly, I'm not just saying that because I'm involved in it. It's really good movement. So link in the description to download it. Yeah, please make sure you go and do that.
Did you see that seamless advertisement from me there?
It was beautiful, Kurtis. It was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Amazing.
It's the wig. It's the wig.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content if you haven't done so already. And as we say in the Black Country, Tura beat. See you next time.